The men standing guard in the halls had often been the subjects of reproving glares from the cleaners. The cleaners saw them as mere obstacles. It was no wonder the guard hadn't waited for his relief to arrive before leaving his post. Where could he have gone? Maomao mumbled. As she sat there staring into the distance, one of the cleaners, a plump middle-aged woman, bustled right up to her and her companions. She said, "You wouldn't happen to be the extra help, would you?" "No." "Do we look like it? If it had been just Maomao and Chu, it might have made sense, but Lihaku was standing right there." And then there was the old man and his assistant. The old man had begun climbing up the mast, and his assistant followed, trying to stop him. The sailors pulled both of them down as soon as they saw them. "I can't say you do. I was just hoping for a few more pairs of hands. The lady we sent to do the shopping hasn't returned in all this time, and I'm at the end of my rope. If you aren't busy, maybe you could take a message for me." The lady they sent to do the shopping. Maomao pictured the quack as he must have looked most recently. He had changed out of his sleepwear but hadn't put on his physician's uniform. A clean-shaven eunuch. Eunuchs often looked somewhat gender-neutral. It was possible someone could have mistaken him for a middle-aged woman. It wouldn't have helped that the cleaners wore men's clothes for ease of movement. "Pardon me, but could you describe the person you sent to go shopping?" Maomao said. "Well, she was a helper sent over from one of the other ships. They said they couldn't spare anyone too young. Even so, what a person they sent. She just sat there with no idea what she should be doing. So I gave her this errand and now here we are. It has been more than 2 hours and she is still not back." The woman spread her hands in frustration. "Hulluwu," came a woman's shout from the pier. "The help is here. What do you need us to do?" Maomao, her companions and the cleaner all looked at the woman coming down the jetty toward them. "It looks like your helper has arrived," Maomao said. "Yes, well. But then who did I send shopping?" The quack spent most of his time cooped up in the medical office, so the woman hadn't recognized him. Maomao and the others shook their heads at each other. "What did you ask her to buy?" "Well, soap. Inexpensive bar soap is easy to find at Arnon's port. Inexpensive liquid soap always has a strong smell. No one likes it on a ship. Bar soap was not often used in Lee. Do you know where they sell it? Probably one of the stalls around town. Would you please go and get some?" "All right," Maomao said. She and the others now knew where they had to go next. "Ooh, those clothes look nice. Maybe I should buy them." "Ah, not bad, not bad. This hair stick would look lovely on you, Maomao. How is the juice at that shop?" "It's a bit of a strange color, but I think it looks drinkable." The freak strategist had been going on like this ever since they arrived at the marketplace. By the way, all of his hair sticks and clothing choices were at least 1,000 years ahead of their time. And the juice looked like it would really upset your stomach. Maomao repeatedly stopped her aide from producing the purse. "My, he doesn't slow down, does he, Miss Maomao?" Chu, who seemed totally unfazed by the strategist's antics, had several skewers of grilled bird meat in her hand. It wasn't chicken. It was leaner and bonier. Perhaps it was a sparrow or some other pest bird from the fields. Maomao thought orders had gone out not to catch sparrows for the time being. It was one of Jinchi's attempts to forestall the swarm of locusts. Maybe Arnon wasn't subject to the command, even if it was a vassal state. "Are you sure that's not cannibalism?" Maomao asked. "It tastes good and that's what counts. Here, have a bite, thanks." Chu offered Maomao one of the skewers and she gladly took it. The meat was tough, but some people liked it that way. "Excellent. Now, my good aide, I'll be needing another skewer." Chu stuck out her hand and the aide, looking defeated, dropped a few coins into it. It looked like the most natural thing in the world. She wasn't even paying for it. Chu was definitely too shrewd for her own good, or at least for everyone else's. The freak strategist was munching on fruit he had skewered on a chopstick. Maomao, taking a bite off her own skewer, looked around for anywhere selling soap. "Bar soap isn't cheap. Should they really be using it to clean the ovens?" Lihaku asked. He was right. Even Maomao and the others had no better than ash or maybe liquid soap when they washed. Bar soap was not very common in Lee and it wasn't widely sold. "I don't think it's the same in Arnon." Maomao patted a tree nearby. It looked similar to a windmill palm, but it lacked the bushy trunk. Large berries grew high overhead. "This is a palm tree," she said. She had only seen them in pictures in books, but this one was also known as the beetle palm. The nuts could be chewed like tobacco or ground into a powder to clean the teeth, and also to flush worms out of the body. The plant they were looking at just then was a little different. Some kinds of palm are used for their fruits or berries, and others are used for their oil. Some palms have a berry that is a lot like a red date. The oil palm is used to make oil, just as the name implies. If you mix the oil with seaweed ash, you can make soap. She did not know how it was hardened into shape, though. Was it by reducing it, drying it, or perhaps by mixing in another ingredient? Maomao looked at the shops. Near the palm trees, a vendor was selling berries. The fruit was large, and the vendor made a hole in each one to insert a straw. "I would like one for each of us, please," said the considerate aide, buying enough fruit for everyone. Maomao decided to accept his hospitality since they were already here. What came through the straw was both somewhat sweet and somewhat salty. "I wish this were a bit sweeter. Don't you have any sugar?" The insatiably sweet-toothed old man was disappointed. "I am fond of the salty stuff myself," said Lihaku. At that, the aide offered him a leaf piled with something white. "The shopkeeper says this is on the house. He claims it is palm meat." It was pale and translucent, doused in fish sauce. Maomao and Lihaku both took a piece and tasted it. "It's a bit like raw squid," Maomao remarked. She couldn't pretend she didn't like how firm it was. It would be a good side dish with some wine. Not quite my thing, it's a bit rubbery." Lihaku wasn't as enamored. Oh well, that meant more for Maomao and Chu. "Excuse me, do you know where we might find a soap vendor?" Maomao asked the palm seller. "Soap vendor?" "A bit farther in. He sets up right next to the fried food places a lot of the time. There is a square just ahead. He is often there." This came as a reply coloured with a distinct Annanese accent. Apparently the shopkeeper was willing to indulge customers who had spent some money. He added, "You are all Linese, yes. Your stout friend there should keep you safe, I think, but be careful." Lihaku asked, narrowing his eyes. "Careful of what?" "There are a lot of Linese around these days. It seems you are not like most of them, but there are plenty who like to make fun of us. Last night there was a fight at the bar. Taxes have gone up, and there is talk that our princess was chased out of the rear palace because they didn't like her enough. Just try not to give anyone an excuse, that's all I'm saying. Taxes had been raised as a protective measure against locusts." Meanwhile, the princess who was chased out of the rear palace must have been Fayu. She had left after causing a scare about a ghost. They are not exactly wrong. Maomao wanted to push back, but it was true. Some of the Linese visitors had a bad attitude. There was a lot of pent-up frustration from the unaccustomed ship travel. Some people were also convinced that they were suffering a punitive demotion. "Huh," said Lihaku, and Maomao saw a new look come into his eyes. "We had better find that old doctor fast then. The flighty quack would make an easy target all by himself." Maomao and the others finished their drinks and threw the shells away. Then they headed deeper into the market as the shopkeeper had suggested. "Boy, something smells really sweet," Lihaku said. "And really oily," said Maomao. The air seemed thick. The square was paved with flagstones. A structure resembling a mausoleum stood in the center. Trees lined the area, and some of them were even fruit trees. Small mangoes were sprouting from the branches. There might also be some lychees among the plant life, but it was probably the wrong season for them. The shops seemed designed to catch the interest of passers-by. Maomao felt overwhelmed by the sweet smell, but there were also places selling incense, candles, and cards. Sesame dumplings and fried bread were among the available snacks. The freak strategist bought some immediately, and Chu quickly started sponging off him. The aide was kept very busy. "Where is the soap?" Maomao muttered. She looked around until she spotted a place with what looked like white bricks piled up at the stall. She trotted over and was greeted by a scowl from the shopkeeper. "Are you Linese?" he demanded as they walked up. His accent was not as noticeable as the palm seller's accent. He said, "Who cares what I am? I am a customer. I want to buy some soap." "How much?" Lihaku asked. The shopkeeper said, "It doesn't matter because I don't have any to sell you. Try somewhere else." The shopkeeper turned away pointedly. "Well, that is a problem. Do you want to tell me why you won't sell to me?" It was easy to assume Lihaku literally had muscles for brains, but he was making a wise choice here. Maomao, seeing she couldn't be of help, took a step back and watched. They could see the gears turning in the shopkeeper's head. Lihaku stood with an easy smile on his face. He said if you want to buy soap, go directly to where it is made. We need soap for our daily lives around here. What are we supposed to do when you buy up all our stock just because it is new? The price of materials has gone up recently. I will have to raise my prices when I sell out of this batch. It turned out even the surly shopkeeper had a story. He should have just said so up front. Why did bitter people always take so long getting to the point? He would make the same money no matter who he sold to. He was trying to keep his price low for the locals. There were some residential areas nearby. This was a perfect place for people to come buy their soap. Materials are more expensive, Lihaku asked. Do you mean because the Linese are buying everything? No, because the materials we had burned up. There was a fire. A major ingredient in soap was oil. It practically burned easily. I see. Well, thank you. Lihaku asked with his friendliest smile, is the soap maker's place farther along here? The shopkeeper looked put upon, but he pointed the way nonetheless. Walk straight that way and look for the signs of the fire. There is a small hut there where they are working on more soap. There will be plenty of craftspeople around. I am sure you can ask one of them. I warn you though, they are not as nice as I am. All right, well, we appreciate it. And since you are so nice, perhaps you could tell me one more thing. Did an older man, a Linese like us, happen to come by earlier today trying to buy soap? An older man? Wait, do you mean the old lady? She was pudgy with somewhat droopy eyebrows. Yes, that is him. He is not an old lady, though. Where did he go? He asked the same questions as you all, and I gave him the same answer. He went toward the soap makers. It would have been about half an hour ago by now. Great, you've been such a big help. We really appreciate it. Lihaku shook the man's hand and Maomao offered a bow. By that point the strategist had purchased all the snacks at the snack stall. Chu was busy mooching off him, and he was relatively calm while he was eating. Maomao couldn't help being impressed by Chu's adaptability. She felt bad for the aide, though, who had to be in about 3 places at once. Maomao, look, fried bread. The freak strategist stuck the bread out at her, trying to stuff it straight into her mouth, but she dodged him. Chu moved to intercept and received the mouthful instead. Delicious, she said, wiping her lips as if this were nothing out of the ordinary. Just what kind of stomach did she have? After walking a bit in the direction the soap seller had indicated, the group found themselves among a cluster of houses. Windmill palms grew here and there instead of other garden plants. Do these trees produce any kind of fruit, I wonder? Chu asked, eyeing them closely. They do, and it can be used in medicine, but no one seems to think it tastes very good, Maomao said. Why are they here then? I think maybe because they can also be used to make brooms, ropes, and things like that. The leaves have medicinal properties too. The palms were quite versatile in fact, but Chu seemed uninterested in anything that wasn't edible. Please stop, Master Lacan, said the aide, who looked like he was at the end of his rope. If this was what he had to deal with every day, Maomao hoped he kept some stomach medicine on hand. Think that's it? Chu asked when she spotted a half-burned building. There was a crowd gathered nearby. Maomao hurried toward it and her uneasy feeling increased. When she reached the crowd, she saw a very familiar back. I'm telling you it wasn't me, the person with the back pleaded. It was the quack doctor, and he was almost in tears. He was surrounded by several men, one of whom held him by the collar. Master physician, Maomao exclaimed as she ran up to them. The quack with his snotty nose grabbed hold of her. She tried to peel him off, but he wasn't going to make it any easier to talk to anyone. That was when the freak strategist broke in. What are you doing to my little girl? Demanded the old man, who still had sugar around his mouth. My, the quack asked. Is this man your father, young lady? He sounded unconcerned despite his obvious fear, which was just like him. He is a total stranger, Maomao replied quickly. Who is this person? Tell me his name, Lacan demanded. I could tell you, but you would never remember it, Master Lacan, his aide said. The aide did imitate Lacan in staring at the quack. You are the master physician, aren't you? Ahem, yes, that is right, said the quack. He wiped away the worst of the snot with a handkerchief, but he still looked pretty pathetic. Oi, you bunch, do you know this guy? Said one of the men. He spoke with a thick accent and wore filthy clothes. His skin was comparatively dark. He was young, and it was obvious his blood was rushing to his head. A jar full of cloudy oil sat by his feet. The quack tried to hide behind Maomao, so she found herself out in front by default. Then the freak strategist stepped in front of her protectively. Knock it off. You are not going to do anyone any good here. She had hardly had the thought when Lehaku stepped in front of the strategist. That ingratiating smile was on his face again. That's right, this old guy is with us. Does something seem to be the matter? He was their bodyguard and he was doing his job. He was a large mixed-breed dog, but he made a good guard dog. The Ananese men began to mutter to each other. One of them said, "What can't you see? Just look." The dark-skinned man pointed toward the wall. The scorched bricks were soaked with water. A wooden chest lay on the ground, and it seemed to be the source of the fire. The fire came from there, and the old guy was right next to it. That means he started the fire. He must have started the one the other day, too. No, I did. I just wanted to buy soap. The quack moaned. I've seen him lurking around here. I know this is all your fault. Okay, just calm down. Lehaku said, I understand your point, but I want you to hear our side of the story as well. He did not raise his voice, but he looked at the man as a large dog might look at a puppy. 5 men surrounded the quack doctor. They were all vigorous and muscular, but not as well built as Lehaku. The angry man considered shooting back, but he fell silent under Lehaku's gaze. Maomao watched the man from behind her bodyguard. Considering their dirty outfits, the jar of oil, and the fact that they were standing in front of a soap maker's shop, she suspected they were soap makers. She could see the damp patch on the blackened wall. She also smelled the scorched odor in the air. It seemed likely that after the first blaze was put out, another smaller one had started. First things first. She did not know about this fire, but this man only came to Arnon last night. He was rocking across the sea on a boat until then. That much I can tell you for certain. Do you follow? That set them talking. Yeah, okay. But that box was set on fire and he was the only guy around. What's your excuse for that, huh? Set on fire? Lehaku looked at the quack for confirmation. No, Nuo, it caught fire on its own. I tell you, I didn't do anything. Liar, how did it light itself then? Yeah, said one of the other men. It couldn't have just burst into flames by itself, added a third. All right, I hear you. Stay calm, Lehaku said. Maomao pushed past the quack and peered at the blackened box. Fibers of some kind appeared to be inside, along with grains of something. Both were thoroughly charred. Maomao, that is filthy. Why don't we get something nice from the snack stall and head on back? The freak strategist was the only one with no idea what they were doing there. Imagine what it will do to our diets if we only eat sweets. I think another savory skewer on the way back would be just right. Chicken would be welcome, but shrimp could also be really good. The strategist was not the only eccentric character there. Another person thought only of eating. You too, Miss Chu, wailed the quack. Well, we cannot leave empty-handed. Let's buy some soap and hurry back, said Maomao. Oi, you're the ones who aren't listening, said the soap maker, incensed. We are listening. In short, if we can prove that this man didn't start your fire, you'll let him go, yes. Maomao said, looking at the man the soap maker was still holding by the collar. Yeah, sure. But you had better be very convincing. Very well. If I cannot answer to your satisfaction, you will receive ample compensation. Just get it from the old man over there. Lady Maomao, the strategist's aide, that is, the old man's aide, looked like he was going to cry. The craftsmen started muttering among themselves again. The huddle soon finished. All right, get ready to pay up, of course, but if he is innocent you will sell us soap at the market price. Done, very well. Maomao looked at the burned box. Were you using this for garbage? She turned the box over. The soaking fibers came from the bark of the windmill palm. Some small round things also rolled out. That is right. Is the bark of the windmill palm part of the soap production process? No, we make scrub brushes from the palms. Soap is not the only thing we make here. Soap and scrub brushes. 2 products could easily be used together, so it made sense to manufacture them in the same place. So these blackened things are these fried scraps. Yeah, fried scraps meant leftovers from something that had been fried. Making soap required a great deal of oil, and no matter how abundant the resources might be, they would have to find a way to keep expenses down. This was necessary if they wanted to sell the soap at a price people would accept for a daily consumable. What were they to do? Were you using used oil in the soap? Plenty of establishments in town sold fried food. Lots of places to get supplies, not exclusively. What would that have to do with anything anyway? I see, and you were throwing away the batter scraps here. Yeah, Maomao looked hard at the men. Then she glanced at the sun to check its position. It wasn't yet high noon. It's not very nice of me, but maybe I can stretch the truth here. These fried bits, do you filter them out of the oil? See for yourself, right over there. The craftsman pointed toward a pot brimming with oil. Beside it was a wire strainer covered with a cloth. And you do this while the oil is still hot. Cold oil was harder to strain. The strainer was likely made of metal wire to allow the hot oil to flow through. I suppose the cloth is cotton. That's right. We go around and collect it while it is still hot. These days it is a bit of a race. Other soap makers are also coming to this area to get oil. Maomao nodded and looked into the strainer.